Are we on?
We are.
Oops. Hi.
Hello. We are in the toilet. We have a new toilet.
Yeah.
We have. There we go. And it's a compost toilet.
It's a dry compost toilet.
Ooh, wow, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so for this Sunday matinee, we have really two big topics because it's actually all connected to this. A, composting and how we do it, including how we compost whatever is elegantly hidden under your legs.
Humanure.
And how we create projects at the Quinta like this one that you've created, and the other projects that we have all around here. So very good morning. Thank you for joining us.
You are?
I am Stefan, the person who sort of tries to run the Quinta in one form or another. And you are?
I am Mountain. What to say about me? Like to the list of things that I could describe myself as, I am also now the builder of compost toilets.
Exactly. Very important kind of thing because it's a really, really cool thing. Now, I'm assuming everybody is sort of familiar with compost toilets, but maybe not. So maybe we just say one or two things. I mean, you want to say one or two things. How does this work? I mean, it's obviously a toilet. There will be a door eventually.
At one point, so, that might be nice.
You will enjoy a fabulous view
on olive trees and almonds and a nice hill in the background.
Super view.
Really nice. So the door will be also kind of like that. When you sit, you can actually see the view, because then you can have a pool with a view. And that was the whole slogan of this project.
Put a sign somewhere. Pool with a view this way.
Yes. But dry compost is very easy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very. So there is a toilet seat, but underneath is a bucket. Mm-hmm. Where you will actually pee and poo in, because it's under here. And then you add wood chips to like take out the moist that it sucks it up, because that's what makes the smell, right?
Right.
So the wood chips like dry it out a little bit, and then when the bucket is full, you take it to another place, and we will use an old dog kennel for that, the old dog house. You practically just basically dump the contents of the bucket and add a layer of straw to it, and leave it there for 1 or 2 years to cure, and then you can use it as compost. For some people use it in the vegetable garden, but I think it's mostly used for like trees. Fruit trees is very good, because that's like it's a slower process of taking. Yeah. I think maybe we are a bit overly concerned about that human manure is like bad, which is strange, because we use horse manure and sheep and whatever.
Yeah. Totally agree.
In the vegetable garden. So it's a bit like this weird idea that human manure would be a bad thing, especially if you're vegetarian or vegan. There's no like of the meat or fish that changes the bacteria in your bowels. So then I understand that it would you would want it to, because we don't normally use animal manure of animals that eat meat, right?
Exactly, because I remember having this discussion with somebody about kind of like, for example, dog poo. Lady poos a lot. And and somebody was saying like, well, actually you can cure it, and then after a year or 2 years it will be fine.
Yes.
But because lady actually doesn't really eat a lot of meat, but kind of being a meat eating animal is an interesting argument for becoming even more vegetarian if you are not yet. So you can save the world and make your pool be better
to use. Yeah.
But so it's interesting. Yeah. One thing before. So I remember having my very first dry toilet experience.
Yeah. How was that?
Well, I think I remember it being, well, first I was astonished and then I was completely surprised, but it needed a little bit of adjustment for me.
Okay.
Maybe it's my way of pooing, you know, but because it was dry, so like no peeing inside
You
the
can.
container, that sort of made me.
You can pee inside. Like the more, if it has more pee, it gets a little bit more difficult. But you can, and there's also like, we don't have it here because I think like the general thing here is like find any tree to pee, and then there's many. We have a couple. Some people use this separator where the pee goes in a different container, and then you could also use that if you dilute pee 1 to 10 with water. Then you can also use it to like give to trees. It's very healthy. It's just a bit too strong, so that's why you dilute it.
Then so I mean, so that I remember this kind of thing here. And the other thing was, I was really surprised that it didn't stink.
No, not at all.
Because that was sort of the number one.
Not at all.
Whoa, how is this happening?
No, that's why the wood chips, you know, they take all the moist and thus the odor out of it. And it's well ventilated here as well. It's not like inside. Sometimes people install this ventilator so that there's some air circulation, but we are outside, and part of the wall here is created with the mimosa sticks. Like Sasha took down a lot last week from the patch there where we want to build the pagoda. Who knows what it's called? So before mulching the rest of it, I took some out together with Heidi and cut them to measure. So we have a piece of the wall is stick wall.
Yeah, maybe just quickly say thank you to Sasha, because there's like 2 terraces which were totally mimosa'd. Overgrown. But it's a really invasive species. And they are terraces now. It's actually amazing. It's kind of a really nice area. Or probably, well, once the pergola thing that sort of sits there is there, I'm sure we'll do a broadcast from there. It's really kind of quite nice. Quite a lot of work into there. So, wow.
It's a big pile.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
The things that he took out.
I know yesterday somebody came kind of like the entire parking is now covered in mimosas, and everybody has to go a little bit around, which is kind of funny. But moving back to composting before we go completely sidetracked on mimosas. What do we do with compost? Why do we compost? I mean, it seems to be this sort of like idea of compost is good, and everybody. I know in my urban life, I kind of had this idea. I just throw things onto a pile, and then hopefully they will work.
Yeah,
and then I never did, which was very annoying. What do we do with it?
What do we do with it? We enrich the soil.
Yeah. Right. So
that's the main thing, I guess. Like the bacteria that are like compost goes through like big process of bacteria coming in and out according to the temperature it rises to. So normally you use greeny stuff and woody stuff. So that the woody stuff for this would be the straw. That's why it's there. And if you make a pile, the temperature inside rises, and with that temperature, different kinds of bacteria come in that decompose the organic material that is there and turn it into this very rich. I mean, normally the smell of compost is like, and I guess often if you are in an urban context and you just put the kitchen leftovers, it's sour and it smells bad and blah. But if you add enough like woody things to it, then it becomes a very rich food for the soil that plants love.
And the other thing that we do, of course, is just put organic matter, which could go into a compost, right back into the soil as well. Right?
Yeah,
Because
this
that's
is
also part of
the
plan from.
Gertrude Frank applies it. It's a generally known system. It's called sheet composting. So you just on the place where you would want the compost, you have these layers of like whatever weeds that you take out or leaves from plants, and then again add some more woody thing like wood chips or straw. So it's like, yeah, then it doesn't go into the pile, it's just directly going into the soil. Which is very
And then you don't have a waiting time as opposed to here we were talking about having 1 to 2 years. I know we have a bunch of Scotch broom, which we used to clear the stone circle, but we still haven't been.
Yeah.
But we'll go there one day. Which is up there. And I remember reading about this because apparently that's kind of a bit difficult to. I think all sorts of stuff in my trousers here. That's a bit difficult to compost as well. So it's kind of like it also takes a long time.
Well, there's two ways to compost. There's cold compost, in that the temperature doesn't go so high, so it takes longer to decompose. And there's hot compost, and then you would add actually manure and stuff like that. And then the temperatures go really high, really fast inside of the compost pile. And that you could use like after 90 days or something, even 3 months. But there is a thing, and I'm never quite of aerobic and anaerobic compost, like the one that has oxygen inside and the one that doesn't. And that's different, but I'm still trying to understand what to use for what and why one is good for this and the other is good for that. So there is also fast composting.
Yeah, which is kind of a good thing, right? Because if you want to have it, for example, like we would like to have a lot of it, I suppose, in spring.
Definitely.
So and we're now cutting a lot of things and starting to clear a lot of parts, for example, the new water. So then, we would actually have it in spring as opposed to, I have the kitchen compost is sort of like down there. And now after about a year, it's starting on the bottom to look a little bit like there's compost. A little bit. The emphasis on a little bit, like this much of it, maybe. But, it seems like to take a lot of stuff, and it's really gotten a lot of stuff in, because of course we're kind of using a lot of vegetables, a lot of vegetable scraps, all this kind of stuff is going in.
Yeah, and then you see the worm bin, which we also have. That's much faster, right? Like these worms are like eating through that stuff, and then
that's stunning.
Yeah,
and you kind of fill it up, and it's like it's what this size, and you fill it up, and like you look a week later, and so everything's gone, and it's all composty stuff, and then you go put back up. And
that works really well. Yeah.
Oh, compost is quite. They're really efficient.
But they need low temperatures, right? Or kind of not too hot.
Yeah.
You could not add them to the.
Yeah, not too hot, not wet. Absolutely not wet. That's sort of like a big thing, because they need to breathe, and kind of all these kind of things. So if there's water, for example, that's really bad.
Okay.
But they're cool, and you get this. It's really nice.
That's really rich material.
Fabulous stuff. So, but this also was not just talking about the compost, but this was about
we are going.
Today is very organized. This was also one of a project, and you've been here quite a while now.
I think it's funny.
Ooh, it's like you're part of the furniture. Can't leave anymore. In German, that's kind of a nice saying, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
If you're saying like you're part of the furniture, I think I meant it in a nice way. Put it that way. You have to sit now all the time. Everybody. Projects at the Quinta. You kind of started with projects, like this is one of your projects. We always say kind of we really welcome projects from people. How did it maybe how was your experience doing a project here? That is a kind of interesting, more sensible question.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a difficult question. How was my experience? It was very, very good, thank you.
Fantastic.
No, well, I've been here before, so you kind of knew me, I guess, which is a good thing, but I also feel that it's very open to, like, I said this before, I guess, there's so many ideas on what, is that lady?
Yeah, standing there. I know. Oh, well, what are they doing? Why are they all the time on the toilet?
Yeah, like there's so many ideas that you have and that people have that come here because it has so many opportunities. And one of them, I guess, was dry compost toilet, and I like to build stuff. Yes, sturdy wood. So it felt very open for me to make this my project. I was like, I drew the thing, like the plan for it, but we went to the wood shop and you actually never asked me, like, what is the plan? So you seem to be very trustworthy. That's not the word. Trusting. Yeah. Of like, okay, I guess you know what you are doing, so just get on with it. And I was happy to have my own project. I think, like in general, since there's so much going on, it's always like, this needs to happen. This we need to do now, and and I can get a little overwhelmed by that. But it was nice to have, like, okay, I'm doing this now.
Yeah, and I think from my point of view was really like, you weren't here for the first time.
Yeah, sure.
Which I think is sort of also important. So
I didn't waltz in and say like, I'm gonna build a compost toilet.
Yeah, but you knew how the place worked and what was missing and what was sort of interesting things we would like to do. So I think that's an important point. I think also for bringing a project, it's sort of easier to do it that way, unless it's sort of like something where so there's already a need and we actually ask for somebody to come and do that or volunteer in that kind of arena. And then I think also what I think it is, it's kind of like it felt very much like you knew what you were doing. Well, I trust you knew what you were doing. And I think the one important point that you're raising is this sort of thing of, kind of particularly after you've done a lot of work on the land, it's very easy to get sidetracked. Like, we need to do this now. We need to do this now. There's things with the water over there. But I think then it's also very useful to have that time and space where you say, okay, no, actually, these couple of days focus. Or this week or whatever, 2 weeks, I was spent on doing the project, which of course is another thing, right? It's sort of, you actually, it's important that you are able to finish it.
This took me longer, but it's always like this. You think like, it's just building a structure and then putting a roof and blah, 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 but it took me like good 2 weeks, I guess. I'm like, well, of course, there's also limited hours in the day that you can work because of the heat. So it's like, for me, that's the thing that I know that I have, like, I think like, I'm gonna do this quickly, and then we're like, oh, why is this so much work?
Which seems a bit like the story of the Quinta, if I may say.
Or the story of
just do that. Really?
But maybe it's just like that. It just looks, when you look at it, it looks so simple that you're like, you could do this in 2 or 3 days, but then it took me a bit longer.
For me, I'm always blaming kind of being kind of, very urban based for a long period of time. So I think like, that's easy. And then you go like, oh no, it's not actually. It's pretty hard, and you have to do all of the stuff. But then we're going back to this idea of kind of, how do you value, for example, a tomato that comes out of a vegetable? Right? It's like, well, actually, I cared for it for 6 months, so it's really like something special. And then go, please, this was my little baby for 6 months or so. But so I think would you recommend other people to come here?
Nah.
No. Stay away.
It's just here.
And kind of come with project ideas.
Sure. I mean, it's definitely yes. I think it's interesting if you put out like, this is the type of stuff that we would like to develop. And then if you have something like, oh, I could do that, or I would like to learn how to do that, like, but by doing it, learning how to do it, then this is a very nice environment to actually do it. Like mushrooms, mushrooms. We want them.
Yes, desperately. Yes.
What
Yesterday
else?
on the market there were mushrooms.
Yes.
I would. This is the wish list. This is great.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a big wish list. I would really love to have a shower somewhere, or kind of
Outside
like
shower,
sort of like I'm a little cautious because I once stayed at a place where they had, it was like a hot tub, which I think was really amazing. But I'm sort of, it's so much water. On the other hand, you can recycle the water, so maybe it's not such a bad thing. But that was amazing. You could just go there, and you were, going into this like had this little wood oven, and kind of, so you put the little fire, and then, talk about romantic evening.
Taking a warm bath outside is the best.
And then, that was kind of like, so they had like a camping, like a tent on top of it. So wow, that was like fabulous. So that's I think that's sort of like a thing.
Yes.
On the less hedonistic front, is that hedonistic? On the less kind of like, nasty front, I think we need a lot of kind of stuff around the water still. We're yet again having a heat wave. Yet again, the water is really low. So there is a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And we already have sort of solar pumps, which kind of start pumping now, and that's kind of good. But I think we need more of that. So that's a kind of a desperate wish list. If what doing this or interested in doing it, I think they have the know-how here. But it's just kind of doing it all. And there's a lot. I think that the emphasis will also shift a little bit. I think I feel, like now it was really very much on the land.
Yeah.
And I think sort of into September, October, particularly when it starts to go into winter, the emphasis will shift a lot more back again into the inside. Yes. Also now that finally we're looking at the end of having a lot of installations done, so solar system, the water, and now also getting a heating system installed. So that will be nice and cozy in winter, while being environmentally conscious about what we're doing. So I think there will be much more sort of interior decorating ideas,
organizing stuff.
Organizing, like for example, in the kitchen there will be a lot of organizing. Not that it's been kind of a bit shell-shocked with organizing in the kitchen, but so those kind of things are really really important things. So if you feel like like you would like to render walls, paint walls, are really creative, then you should really come in the next couple of months, because I think that will be a lot of the focus. Yeah. I mean, there will be always a little bit of land stuff, but it does slow down a little bit, I feel. And then it started January, if I remember last year, sort of January, it started again being more focused outside. So there's this sort of, like started to get beds ready and started to think about, kind of planting like pre-planting stuff. And so, or maybe I should have said, some of it should have happened. Happened. What happened? Like, for example, planting green manure before, and then kind of, putting it back in. So things like that. So it's an interesting thing, of kind of also.
Yeah, sure.
When you come
That's
in
really nice to see what the seasons ask.
Yeah. Plus, autumn is really amazing here, right? That's a kind of.
Keep saying.
Yeah. No, trust me.
But there's still a lot of harvesting to be done, I guess. That's kind of starting now. Almonds are getting ready.
nobody can see it this way, but they are there. It's all almonds,
Uh-huh.
olives now. So this year it's all very early, seems.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Because of the
yeah, a lot of the grapes are ready. So for the food week, it's looking really promising for trying to do some wine.
chestnuts will come.
Chestnuts will come. Last year they were a little later, but I don't know this year. So maybe they are also still in the food week, which would be great because chestnuts are really versatile and really great stuff.
They're delicious.
And you can make really protein-rich flour out of it, which people really don't really realize how good the stuff is. And just sort of got it's one of the knowledge that I didn't really pass down. But of course, we've got lots of chestnuts, particularly on the other side of the stream. There's a lot. Yeah, so there will be a whole bunch of stuff coming up. Which actually reminds us, we should talk about a little bit about what happened this week.
Okay, what happened this week?
We got a new oven. It's huge, which was really unexpected, but really nice. I thought that was sort of the highlight of the week, apart from, of course, having a toilet. That's also very But yeah, so this is me. So good news for the food.
Yes.
Like a big oven is now in the middle of a space. It used to be crammed in the corner somewhere in the back end of the kitchen. And now the kitchen is like central, an oven, 5 people can stand around it and have a great time. Dance and sing in the kitchen. And it's so that's kind of quite a big thing again. Yeah. I think, and then so the heating installation, which is the last really big one, is kind of scheduled for early September. And then we're only working on another kind of system which will blow in hot air during the day in winter, so that we don't need to burn anything, and that we can store the energy which we are creating, and then kind of really it's kind of a very complex kind of interplay of various systems, but to keep the place warm. Yeah, so that would be an interesting thing, which reminds me. What else happened? Did anything else happen?
I think apart from building this and cutting the mimosa, the stove, you did more water, stuffies. Yeah. But I think that's about
still quite a lot, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's quite a lot, and it's kind of a lot of stuff that sort of tends to happen here, and a lot of things that kind of just amazing going on. But I'm looking at my phone because that has all the kind of cool things with me is what's all happening at the Quinta. I took it out. My favorite book about animals, and I forgot I left it at the table on the terrace. But there's a queer book club, which is on the 29th of August. It's not this Monday, but the next Monday at 7:30. And then on the 12th of September, there is another tea in the garden, which is amazing. And actually, I also wanted to say thank you to everybody who attended the welcome meeting last week, because it was really nice and there were lots of people there. Because on the 15th of September, there's the next welcome meeting. So if you've missed the last one, then that's another opportunity to come. So welcome meeting is really cool because you get to know much more about the Quinta, about the different pods. Because there's so much things that people, I think, there's so much going on, but it's sometimes hard to see what's all going on. And then, of course, on the 18th of September, we have a stove now, and it just came in time. So I was a bit scared, or kind of like afraid it wouldn't come, but it did. 18th of September, the Fabulous Food Week is starting. So we will be harvesting. We will be making jams, composts. We will be preserving carrots. Have you ever could preserve carrots? Tomatoes.
Maybe starting Scooby for sourdough. I heard yesterday. Wine making.
The grapes play with it. So it will be like everything you ever wanted to know about creating food. So join us for that. Then 2nd of October to the 9th of October is the autumn work week. And then 4th of December to the 11th of December is the Fabulous Olive Harvest Week, which will be amazing, I'm sure, because it was lovely. Like, because most of you probably weren't there, but in the welcome meeting, Kevin who's one of our super long-standing members, was describing how, how olive harvest is supposed to be, and how we want to make olive harvest at the Quinta. So it's really this kind of thing of, we're harvesting the olives, and then I'm being pushed. I know, you're coming in a moment, Danny. So they were really, it was really about, so you're harvesting, then you have a slot at the local olive press. So you kind of, go there, bring it there, you make olive oil, you kind of, eat the fresh olive oil afterwards. It's all about
that must be amazing.
being together.
Yeah.
Actually a little bit like the food we come to think of it. Sounds a little bit similar. Just you're doing it all with the olive oil. So yeah, it should be really, really great. Great week. So yeah, definitely kind of come and join us for that. Other than that, I think Lady is currently saying, now she's just saying that our pancakes are probably ready.
Yay.
Because every Sunday it's pancake day at the Quinta. Our way of brunching.
And next week
it will be special.
Yes.
Because you're not at the Quinta.
What? Where will we be?
I know, it's quite scary, right?
We are going to Galicia to the Agro Queer Festival.
Exactly.
Yes. Who knows who we will meet there and like drag in front of the camera with.
Exactly. Preferably on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
How was the party yesterday? So yeah, but we'll be at the Agro Queer Festival. We'll be talking to hopefully lots and lots of people.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Very curious, like what an Agro Queer Festival could be.
And yesterday I was in talk with somebody who's organizing the Queers for Climate Justice.
Yeah.
I was really interested about the festival, and I may have said this to probably didn't say this to you, but it was a sort of thing of like, so Portugal this year doing Eurovision. This is turning into a very gay conversation now instantly. Oh. But they had this group called Fado Bicha, which is drag, just doesn't really capture it. It's sort of a very non-binary, very queer version of Fado, which of course is very traditional Portuguese music. And they're absolutely fabulous. And they were in the Festival de Canção, which is the pre-selection.
Okay.
And they almost made it. In fact, the jury let them down. I didn't say this. This is the person who was talking about it. So they didn't become Portuguese Eurovision entry, but almost. And guess who will be at the festival?
Really?
Them. Yeah.
They will perform there?
Yeah, they will perform, and they are amazing. So if you don't know them, just Google Fado Bicha.
Or come to Galicia.
And yeah, so I'm already not just because I looking forward because of the people as well, but I'm really looking forward because of Fado Bicha as well. And it was this kind of surprise because I completely forgot to look at the festival program. I just was so excited about the festival. Like, oh, and then it was like, wow, they are coming, amazing.
Good.
So
looking forward
to them. Maybe we can track them in front of
you. Good.
We'll get them to come here, and then we'll open the Stone Circle.
Good. Okay. For them.
Concert.
Yes.
That would be cool.
Yes.
So until then,
have a nice Sunday.
Have a nice week, and don't forget pancake time. Bye.